Alright, happy Sunday, you all. 92 degrees. Actually, it doesn't even feel that hot. I mean, it is warm, but it's like, it doesn't feel as hot as other days that it was 92 degrees. And it's very cloudy too outside. I mean, well, it appears cloudy. There's no sun, which I guess it's a good thing, right? I'm using the cup that my son got me. He got it a couple of weeks back. It's huge. And I finally decided, you know what, let me put my water in there to see if it'll stay cool. Last time I recorded, I saw a birdie on the line listening. And you know what? I see them in the back, but I don't see any here. I actually got a close parking spot this time. My son says that the class is getting smaller and smaller, and I said, you see, I could have come with you. I would have been another person in that class. And but then I would have had to have paid $130 and come to the end of the next month. I thought for sure I was gonna announce, like, okay, this is gonna be my next week is my last week. No, I was wrong. He tells me, when do you plan on going out of town? Because yeah, I have my guitar lessons till the end of July. It's like, what? When did this happen? What? I'm like, great. And I'm like, child, this is a huge commitment, you know? And I know I'm your mother, but yeah, you are a big boy now, and yeah, I'll talk to your dad, see if he can bring you, because I'm not gonna like cancel my plans, you know? Oh, and needless to say that we compromised, thank God, to where we'll be going to San Antonio for the weekend in July, coming in July, and then we'll go to the island for one day in August, and we'll be staying there for one night. And I said, that's fine, you know. So hopefully that'll work. Oh, somebody's parking behind me. That's why I keep like hesitating to keep talking. Oh, okay, it's that girl. She always comes late. Anyhow, so I'm just glad that we were able to do that. However, I still think the trip over there will be more than just going to the island. The island, yes, it's $600 for 2 nights. But I told them we can buy a little bit of grocery, keep it in the room with us. We can make breakfast in there. We can also, the first night that we're there, we can make our own food, even if it's hamburger helper, because I've been wanting hamburger helper. Or, you know, whatever. I said we can cook there in the room, you know, because the hotel room that I was looking at is kind of like a little condo, and you can stay in there. But no, those are actually more. The condos went up even more, so it was just gonna have to be a regular hotel room. But either way, I mean, we could have just taken some sandwich stuff and make sandwiches, if anything, and eat it with some chips, and that's our dinner for that night. And then the next night, we could have gone somewhere nice to eat and then come home the next morning. But no, he decided, no, we're going to go to San Antonio for 2 nights. That actually, the rooms over there actually came out cheaper. Of course, there's no island over there, but the rooms came out cheaper. It's going to be like almost $200 for 2 nights. But here's the kicker. We're going to have to pay for our meals for each meal. We're going to have to use gas to travel around, and nothing is close by in San Antonio. Everybody knows this. You have to drive like 45 minutes to get to the nearest grocery store. Now imagine getting to the Riverwalk. And he wants to go to the huge flea market that they have over there, because he says that it takes a long time to go through the whole thing. Sometimes it takes 2 days. And I said, well, I'm not spending 2 days in the flea market. You know, I said, I want to see some of those historical landmarks that they have over there. And I would like to go to the caverns to see that. I remember my sister went over there many years ago. I was a little girl. And she showed me pictures, and I never even knew they had such a thing. And I've never gone. I've never seen them. The last time that I went to San Antonio with a person that I was seeing, we went to the Wax Museum. And that was interesting. And then, what else did we see over there? Oh, we went to the Lexington and Corpus on the way to San Antonio. And then, gosh, we went to the Riverwalk. But that kind of sucked because it was cold. It was cold and raining that weekend. And it was on Easter weekend to top it off, you know? But, yeah, I mean, but we at least got to do different things, you know, and experience different things while we were there. We even saw some churches, that were like historical landmark churches. That's why I want to go back and see those, because, it was freezing the time that we went, and it was drizzling the entire time. This time, hopefully, we'll have good weather. Although down here and up there, there's been a lot of storms going on, a lot of rain, and tornado watches. So, okay, so before I continue, I wanted to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there, those with your own children, those that married somebody with children, those that are in heaven watching over us. We miss you a lot. And also to the fur dads that don't have children, but they have fur babies. You all are special too. You all are fathers. And the reason I say that is because just in case you feel like, what, I just adopted like a cat or a dog, I'm not really a dad, it's an animal. Hey, you're taking time to take care of a breathing, living thing. And you're keeping it under your roof. You're being responsible to care for them. And you're giving them what they give you back that's so unconditional, which is love. You know, they'll always love you. So yes, you are special if you are a fur dad. Don't argue with me. And what else did I want to say? It was a really good service this morning at church. I'll share that on my community post. I feel really bad for the pastor, though. He is the husband of the lead pastor's daughter. And he had to have surgery on his ankle, and now he has to travel around in a scooter. And he has a boot. Boy, do I know what that's like. I had my boot on for practically a year because the time that I fell off the stairs at the apartments where I used to live, and I broke my ankle in 3 places. The orthopedic that I saw, he told me, you missed I forgot the name of the bone, because I broke my tibia, my fibula, and the one that holds everything together on your ankle, it starts with an M. And he's like, you missed it by half a millimeter. If it would have broken, you would have had to have surgery. He goes, but you got lucky. And I was like, I don't feel so lucky. Man, I hate it, every bit of it. I had to wear a boot. They did not put me in a cast. Why? I have no idea. But in a way, the boot, as uncomfortable as it was, whenever my leg did itch, I could scratch it. I was able to undo the boot when I felt that, okay, I can't breathe anymore. As it started to get a little bit better, I was able to shower and wash my leg and my foot, because whenever you have a broken limb and it's in a cast, it will smell, you all. Now, I know I wasn't in a cast. I know I was in a boot. However, it's still this kind of similar smell that you get because it's in there, it's uncleaned, and it smelled really bad. So I was able to do that. However, before I was able to shower, I had to have one of those medical chairs in there or a bench. And I was able to shower that way. And it felt so good because the first couple of months of being in the boot, I was not able to get in the shower. And I had to just sit in a chair, in that medical chair, in front of my sink in the bathroom and take a washcloth and some soap and just give myself a sponge bath that way, you know? And even though I felt better, I felt clean, but it's not the same, you know? And then whenever I washed my hair that I needed to wash my hair, I had to do it in the kitchen sink because I still couldn't manage to do it in the shower. So once I was able to use the shower, it was the most amazing feeling ever. I was just like, yes, it felt so good. And it's kind of weird how we miss those things, right? Like, we think, oh, that's no big deal. But even the little things like that, the self-care, you know, they mean a lot. When you can't do them for a while, when you can't do your self-care for a while, you'll realize how important it is to you. Even driving, I couldn't even drive the car yet. And I had to wait. I had to go to therapy and everything. And finally, I was able to drive. Now, my friend from church was telling me, like, is he supposed to be on it? Like, is he supposed to walk on that? And I said, I remember when I had mine, and I remember it was encouraged for me to walk. However, there was no way I could put any pressure on it because it was broken. You know, there's no way. But since he had surgery, oh yeah, you know, when you have surgery, you have to walk. It didn't matter where, you have to walk. So that's probably why he was walking, trying his best to walk back and forth when he was giving the service. But then I would see him sometimes where he would lean on the scooter because, yeah, you can only do so much. And the service was at least 30 minutes or so. And so that's a long time for him to be standing on that, on his boot, let alone walk on it. And he had 2 more services to go. So my prayers to him, I don't know how he did it, but my prayers are for him to have a quick, safe recovery because, yeah, I totally sympathize with him. It is hard. Never want to go through that again, ever. And, you know, and incidentally, it's so weird and so ironic that my son, prior to that, it was when I met my husband. I had just met the husband at the apartments where we used to live. So this was back in like 2011 or 12. And my son was on his skateboard. He had this really big skateboard that somebody gave him, and it was like almost like a surfboard type of thing. It was so big, and he was skating along the side of the where we live now, where we still live now, you know, because the other apartments are around there too. And he hit a bump, he fell off, and he also broke his ankle. But he did need surgery. And oh man, the suffering that my son went through also. He had to use a walker, and he hated it because he couldn't take a shower either. He couldn't get around. He just couldn't get around. And I think they did have him on a cast, on an ankle cast. I don't think he wore a boot. If he had a boot, I think he would have been able to get around a lot easier. And plus, at the old apartment, we had carpeting. Versus when I was in my accident, we didn't have carpeting. We had those wooden floors. The only carpeting was in the bedroom. So in the bedroom, I was able to maneuver around with my crutches and my boot. And then I eventually got a wheelchair because it was just way easier for me to move around up there, you know. But the floors in the bathroom were very slippery. There were a couple of occasions where I almost slipped on my boot, and I would get really scared because I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to break another limb here with this boot on, you know. And fortunately for him, it wasn't too bad like that, except for the bathroom also. It was slippery, you know, so he had to be extra careful in the bathroom. And yeah, like I said, I don't wish that on anybody. You know, it's one thing if you break your arm, you could still walk on your legs. But when you break one of your legs, that's hard, you know? And let me just say that I was also very fortunate because when I fell from the stairs, I was holding a bag of garbage. I was going to go throw it downstairs. I was with my older son. My younger son stayed inside. I was holding that, and I was holding a poster that my older son was going to take back to his place. I was going to drop him off back to his apartment, which is, he used to live down the road from here too, where I'm at right now. And he had some other stuff that he was taking that my son had given him, my younger son had given him, right? His brother. And I don't know exactly how I missed the last couple of steps on those stairs. I do know that it was very dark. The lights were not on in those apartments. And I fell. And my ankle was twisted to the other side. And I was able to straighten myself out. I was able to straighten my leg out and everything, and my ankle. No bone was protruding or anything. I really didn't think I broke anything. But I couldn't stand on it. And when we got to the ER, to the urgent care, because I didn't go to the emergency room, they took the x-rays and they're like, yep, it's broken, you know. And I was like, no, you know. And there was another girl in there too before I got there, and she was already leaving, and she had like her ankle wrapped. And I was like hoping, like, okay, that's all they're gonna do to me, just wrap my ankle and let me go, you know. And she only had a sprain. And I thought, okay, maybe I just have a sprain. No, when they told me and they showed me my x-ray where it was broken in 3 places, I was like, oh my God, like my whole world came to an end. But, you know, it's over. Thank God that part of my life is over for myself, for my son. And it'll be over for Pastor also. Pastor Jody. And before you know it, he'll be walking again, and he'll like, I don't even want to go back there. Don't remind me, you know. But, yeah, I think his service was just really awesome for the dads, for the men. I don't think we give enough credit to men. for everything that they do. You know, especially a family man. You know, it's like the family kind of just looks at him as a provider and money, you know? And fathers are more than that. You know, I don't know if you've all heard this before, but I heard this other creator talk about this, on how men are the ones that carry life. They carry life. And I don't want to be too graphic here, but, you know, in their testicles, they have what the sperm is, and that's life, you know? And we as women are needed so that they can fertilize one of our eggs, and only one of those sperms make it so that we can start creating life and in our uterus, correct? Now, this isn't a health lesson. This isn't Health 101. But I'm just saying, men carry life in their bodies. We don't carry life as women until we get one of our eggs fertilized. Otherwise, we do not carry life. Also, men, they can have a baby until they're like, what, 70, 80 years old? Our eggs start to become not fertilizable, is that a word? After a certain age, you know? So literally our clock is ticking. We can't be like, oh, I'm going to do this with my life before I have a child, and the next thing you know, you're 35 and you're like in a hurry to have a child, which is so wrong. You know, you shouldn't wait. That shouldn't be your last thing on your list, to have a child, honestly, because, yeah, you're putting yourself at risk, your life at risk, and you're putting that child's life at risk, because the older you get, the more risk taking it is. You know, I understand that you have so many things you want to do, but, you know, this is what I mean, though, by giving credit to men that are fur fathers, because you're putting your selfishness aside to care for something else. You're putting something else first, and you're pouring your love into that breathing, living thing. You know, whether it's a child or an animal. You know, but you're deciding, you know what? I can't. I have so much love in my heart that I need to share it with someone. I don't have any kids. I'm going to get me a dog, or I'm going to get me a cat. And I encourage you all to watch these videos. They pop up on my YouTube a lot. Those shorts. And there's a lot of guys that end up finding either a cat or a dog. But especially cats, because cats, I think, are a little harder to love. Not too many people are cat people. They prefer dogs, and I can go with either or, but I was raised around cats, so I'm more partial to cats. And not to say that I wouldn't love a dog, but I have to be ready for a dog, because they're just like exactly like a child. A cat, you can leave at home alone. They're not going to wreck your place. You're not going to find surprises everywhere. Although my cat sometimes does do that, where she'll like have accidents, you know. But you're not going to find surprises everywhere, you know. They're very independent, in other words. Whereas dogs are not very independent. And where was I going with this? Oh yeah, the videos. So there'll be a guy walking, and he's like, look, you all, look what I just found. And he's walking through some alley or something, or passed by an alley, or even just a field, you know. And all of a sudden he hears a faint little meow, and it's a precious little kitten. And he's like, what are you doing here? And where's your mom? And who are you with, you know? And they're like, oh man, well, I can't leave you here, you know. it takes a real man to say that to begin with. You know, because most people, and I've seen even women do this, where they're just like, shoo, get away. No. You know, and they're really mean. But for a man to say something like that, I can't leave you here, and picks up the kitten. I mean, that I'm in awe of that. Like, wow. You know, that's a wonderful thing. And then, you know, they'll be like, okay, we're going to go to the vet tomorrow. We're going to have you checked. I was like, wow. You know, they're actually going to spend money in taking this kitten to the vet to get checked. And so, you know, everything turns out fine most of the time, you know, and then they go home and they start giving the kitty a bath to get all those fleas off and start feeding kitty more. You know, they were already fed kitty once, but, you know, they'll feed kitty again. And next thing you know, they're buying all this stuff. This one guy that I saw, he bought a tower, those cat towers, but in pink, and a pink bed for his precious pink princess. And I believe he even named her Princess. And I was just like, wow, like that is amazing to see that. Because let me tell you, ladies, if you find a guy that has a pet and they treat their pet like it was their child, you've got it made. You have got it made. You struck gold right there. Because if they're that willing to love this fur animal the way that they do, they're going to love you too. Now, I'm not saying you're going to take the place of that fur animal. You're not going to be number one. So let's put that out there, ladies. You're going to be number two. So don't even try to be number one. Okay? The fur animal comes first. That's a done deal. But it's okay because they still love you, you know? And I wouldn't mind taking a back seat to a cat or a dog. Because I'm like, yeah, that's your baby, you know? And I just think that as women, we need to start giving men some more credit, you know, and let them be men. Don't try to run over them. Don't try to override their authority in the home. You know, let them rule the home, even if you disagree. And I know that's hard because I have a lot of disagreements with a husband. But, you know, especially like this recent thing about the 2-day vacation thingy that we're planning, you know, and I was so upset the other day, yesterday, yeah. And I was saying, nobody ever asked me about this and this and that. But now that we were willing to compromise, I'm kind of like, I feel really stupid for making that video because I should have tried to compromise first rather than just thinking about myself and my needs, being selfish that way, you know? I did tell him we're celebrating both our birthdays at the same time, and then here I am upset because he doesn't want to go where I want to go. You know? So let them be men. Let them rule the home. Let them be the authority over the children. Let them discipline the children. Please, for the love of everything that is holy on this earth, do not let your children rule the home. That is not their place. Water break. Oh, it's cold. Yeah, I've seen where couples allow their 3-year-olds to make decisions about their own life. about the rules of the house, and they allow the 3-year-old to dictate when they will go to bed and when they will eat and when they will allow you to go to bed. Listen, it's funny when it's a pet. When you're like, oh, my pet takes up all my bed, I have to go sleep on the couch. You make accommodations for your pet. You think it's funny, but then after a while, you're like, okay, you gotta scooch over. I'm coming to bed. And they'll move, and they'll realize, oh, okay, this is also your bed. Okay, fine, we'll share. But when it's a child and they're yelling and screaming, trying to get their way, and you're allowing that, and you're thinking that you're being a good parent by allowing that, you're not. You're actually in sin. You're allowing this child to dominate your authority as a parent. And some fathers are like that. They're very lenient, especially when it comes to their daughters. And they're more strict and stern when it comes to their sons. Because you've all heard this term, I'm daddy's girl. Or I'm mama's boy. But right now I'm concentrating on the dads because it's Father's Day. Yes, you can be daddy's girl all you want. But you still need to be a disciplined daddy's girl. And you need to know your place. You're not number one. You are number two. Your mother is number one. But if the mom is always overriding daddy's authority by saying, oh, what? He said you couldn't have that? Let me talk to him. And gets after the dad in front of the daughter, that's a sin. You don't do that. You are degrading your husband. You are degrading this child's father right before her eyes. And she's going to grow up to be a rotten adult, just like you. So please correct that. All right, I'm done with that. Since we're talking about women, let's get into it. The Walking Dead. Moon, oh, really? We're going to talk about The Walking Dead again? Yeah, because I said I was going to do it on Sundays. So I want to talk about the women that were in charge. Which were, and these are like the main women that were in charge. If there were more women that I missed, I'm sorry. DeAnna from, oh God, please don't let it happen again where I forget. Alexandria. Thank you. DeAnna from Alexandria. Alpha, the leader of the Whispers. Pamela from the Commonwealth. Jadis. No, I call her, I think they were scavengers, but one YouTuber called her the dumpster people. Yeah, I like that. So Jadis, she was in charge of the dumpster. Maggie and Michonne. So where do we start? I guess I'll start with DeAnna. DeAnna was very diplomatic and a planner, right? DeAnna, she was like, let me hear you out first. What makes you worthy of being part of our community? And more than she keeps you, she wants to know about your background. Where are you from? What have you done out there in the apocalypse, I guess? Give me your resume. What brings you here to my community? And why should I keep you here? And After that, she gives everybody a job, and it's not even anything hard. It'll be like, okay, Michelle, you're going to be a security guard. So are you, Rick. We're going to put you in charge of security. You over there, you're going to do this and you're going to do that. Everybody has a job. And they were all more than proud to be doing their jobs because they felt like a part of a community again. And who wouldn't want that in the middle of an apocalypse, right? You're practically coming from the streets, right? The whole world is your street. It's been a while since you've had a decent meal and a bath. This community has everything. They have water, they have food, they have clothes, nice clean clothes. Like, yeah, this isn't so bad, and all I have to do is what? Like, just guard your place? Well, yeah, hell yeah. Which post should I take? So DeAnna was really good in that sense, but she was also a pushover. She would just let her kids, kind of like what I was talking about before, the 3-year-old ruling the house. And of course, she had favoritism for her kids, no matter how rotten they were sometimes, or most of the time, Nicholas. But she at least was open to criticism when it came from Rick or Maggie or Michonne. And she was also open to correction. Let me turn off my car really quick. She was open to correction, right? And even though she would kind of butt heads a lot with Rick in the beginning, she didn't like that Rick was kind of like trying to take over. She thought, no, my way is better. I'm the leader here of this community. However, she did have a husband. And I noticed the husband was always taking the back seat, like, no, my wife is in charge here. Wrong, husband. Wrong. You should have taken your place. But whatever, this is a show. So she didn't like that this man named Rick was trying to, like, who are you? Like, no, I let you into my community that I'm in charge of. No, you're not going to tell me, like, how to run things here. I know better. But I'm not sure about the depth of DeAnna's background, where she actually came from before she built this community. I'm not sure how that Alexandra, the community, was even made during this time, because a lot of the people that lived in there, they were like oblivious as to what was going on out there. They had no idea that there were cannibals out there, and that there were other threats that others were facing, and not everybody was making it. If you survived the walkers, you may not survive other people. So to be able to make it that far, all the way to that community, to Alexandria, it was a big bonus for you. So, yeah, I'm not really too sure what was going on in DeAnna's head during that time. If she thought, okay, well, there's no other world out there anymore. We know that the world is dying out there. We know that there are people walking around that are supposed to be dead. We know how to kill them, but I've never really seen one. I haven't really been confronted with one. Yeah, my boys will go out there and scavenge along with others from here, But I'm staying here in my place where I'm safe. You know, even when, I forgot what season it was, I think it was 6, where the place got overrun with walkers. I'm trying to remember how that happened. I think it was when the tower fell over and it broke the fence and all the walkers came in. Or was that when the wolves came in? Okay, no, it was when the wolves came in. The tower fell afterwards. Okay, so when the wolves came in, they invaded Alexandria. She didn't know what the hell was going on. She was outside of the gates with Maggie, and Maggie's telling her, like, look, we can plant tomatoes out here, some cucumbers, or whatever else Maggie said. I know Maggie was fixated with her tomatoes. And she was showing her the seeds that they found at a warehouse, and DeAnna's like, yeah, okay, okay. And then all of a sudden, havoc breaks loose, and Maggie's like, we've got to go back in there. And DeAnna's like, whoa, 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 whoa. The safest thing I can do is stay out here. Because I don't remember word for word what she says, but she says, if I go in there, I'll just be another person you'll have to save. So the best thing for me is to stay out here. Yeah. You know, that was the only time DeAnna was willing to stay out there, right? Let me bring down though, since it's not so hot today. And I was like, gee, DeAnna, and you're supposed to be like the leader here, you know? That's crazy. And then, of course, we know DeAnna ends up getting bitten, and the only way to end it is to end her life, but it was a little too late. She kind of just, I don't think, if you ask me, and I'm so glad you did, I don't think DeAnna had the guts to end her life. Let me put my little pad, because I got everybody written down, but I'm not going to be able to get to everybody today. I don't really think she had the guts to do it. I think that's why she waited and waited, and then by the time she decided to do it, it was too late. She already turned. And not only that, but if you notice in that scene where everything's already happening and the walkers invaded the house where she was at, and she's like upstairs and she's in the bedroom already dying, you know, and she hears them outside the door. So she gets up, she opens the door, and rather than wasting a bullet on herself to end it all, she's shooting at these walkers. And then next thing you know is she does this face where she's like screaming, but you don't hear anything. And that's when you know, oh, okay, she turned. She's already turned. And she does. And later on, she's found by Spencer out there, wandering around in the woods. You know, and he knows that he has to kill her. And he's like very heartbroken about that because that's his mother. And he was like, I know, like I've seen her out here already, and I'm just going to have to do it. And that's really sad because it didn't even have to get that far. She could have just done it herself. But I will give DeAnna a lot of credit for this. She may not have the courage to do that, but she had the courage to build a community, to keep it in order. And also, she made a schematic of everything, where everything should go. And she did that even before everything fell down. Everything all went loose. Everything fell, you know? And I forgot who found it. I don't remember if it was Maggie or Michonne that found it, but they followed it, and that actually helped them to continue this community going, keep the people safe and keep them going. And that's where I wanted to get into next with Michonne, because that was her role as a leader, was safety. You know, she was so big on safety, as everybody else, but especially Michonne. So anyhow, I'm gonna end it right there. I'm not really too sure what else I could say about DeAnna other than that. I mean, she wasn't a bad person. I'm not saying that at all. She was actually a really good person. If there's anybody that I would have liked to have been under, it would have been DeAnna. Okay, because, yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to be under Alpha. I don't think I would make it under Alpha, to be honest. She would have beheaded me or something. But, yeah. So, you dads, you enjoy your day. This is your day. This is all about you. Ladies, let's make sure we show them that. Let's make sure we show them that it's all about them. Somebody just passed by my car and freaked me out. Let's make sure we show them that. You know, let's make their favorite dinner, or let's take them out to dinner. Let's give them a foot massage, a back massage, or if you want to wait for the kids to go to bed and give him his real gift, that's all up to you. Hey, no judgment. You know, I like that. I like that, no judgment here. We shouldn't judge each other. I forgot what video I saw where they're like something about judging, that we really shouldn't judge, but women do judge. And then I remember hearing that we listen and we don't judge. The hell you don't. You do judge, okay? You don't just listen, you judge. I'm not judging you. That's my point right now. I am not judging you. Whatever you want to do with your husband, hey, more power to you. In fact, I'm sending you some sexy vibes right now. Some sexy vibes. All for you and your husband. There you go. And, hey, make sure you let the kids know you are staying in your room. You're going to go to bed early, and that is it. You know, do not bother Mama and Dada. We are busy. Love you all. Bye. Oh, did you hear those little bells? That was extra magic.